All righty. All right, welcome everybody. I'm gonna jot down some attendance notes. Here, we got some more people coming in. Go. Let's see who we got here. Yes. Right. Maine, I got Hamrick. Righty. What else we got here? All right, I think I got everybody. All right, welcome again to our third session. We're going to get into the real stuff here. We're going to talk about penalties. You're going to see lots of video of large men beating each other with sticks. And we're going to talk about how to adjudicate that stuff in our next session. So I'm going to get you sort of used to seeing what a penalty is, what a penalty is not, and then we'll move on. Before we do that, does anybody have any questions about counts? Right? So you guys watched the video. There was one mistake in that video. I thought I'd sent you the recently recorded one, but I haven't. I accidentally said that a flag down resets a count. It does not. The only thing that resets a count is a play on, which we'll talk about in our next session. Remember, a count begins with, 4-count begins with possession with a goalie in the crease, right? And that is going to be a visual count, not a verbal count. When the goalie passes the ball out of the crease or steps out of the crease, you just drop your arm. If they're in the crease at 4 seconds, it's a legal procedure. You give the ball to the other team, you move it outside the box. Anytime the defense gets possession, you're going to have a 20-second count starting. That's why you need your 20-second timer. And so what I tend to do, and we'll talk about this on Saturday, is when I see the defense get possession, I give the twirl signal to let everybody know there's been a change of possession, and I flip my timer. If I'm doing it for the crease, goalie gets possession, I give the twirl signal, I flip my timer, and then I go 2, 3, 4, right? You want to do a very slow count. When you guys first do counts, you're going to do what I call the Bruce Lee. Your energy and your adrenaline is going to be going, and you're going to be doing this, right? You want the good old 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, and he passes it out, you just drop your arm. But that 20-second count's going to keep going until the defense gains possession, the ball goes out of bounds, somebody calls a timeout, or it crosses the midline, right? It can cross as a loose ball. It can cross as a ball in possession. Once the offense initially has the ball, they're possessing the ball, carrying, cradling, passing, shooting, we're going to initiate a 10 count, right? They have 10 seconds to touch it in the box. And when they do touch it in the box, both officials are going to raise their hand and point towards the box. That means the count has ended. It is imperative that you do that, right? Because sometimes you may not have the count. Your partner may have the count. Usually it's the lead on that initial 10 count, okay? It's really important that if you're the trail coming up and you see the guy touch it in right at the corner, you may yell, hey, he's in, he's in. We're good. If I don't have anything, I tend to do the, hey, I don't got anything, buddy, to let them know that I have not seen them step it in. Okay. Once they step it in, they can do whatever they want until we put a stall warning on or there's a change of possession and we start the whole process going the other direction. So if anybody's got questions, now's the time to ask that. Otherwise, we're going to jump into penalties. Everybody good?
So just to confirm, is there any verbal parts of counts? Are you
No,
counting aloud for
there's
anything?
really no verbal count, right? So the 10 count, you're just doing this. And the 4 count is silent and the 20 count is a timer, right? So it buzzes when it's over. So there's no verbal counts ever. And again, you really need that timer. You can go to the uniform and equipment page. Now's the time to sort of start looking around. We'll see if I have any at the training. I'm trying to round up old equipment, old timers, to see if anybody is getting rid of some stuff. But you really do want to go ahead and make sure you've got a timer, right? You can't do this in your head. There's too much going on. You're about to see because we're about to do penalties. All right, let's.
Hey, Greg, I got a question.
What do you got?
There are timers that they have like on your like Apple Watch, like different apps. Could you use those?
It's too hard to like pull up your sleeve if you're wearing a jacket and all that stuff. You really want the Ready Ref, or like, so if you're a football guy, if you're a back judge, you can use your Ready Ref. You can just adjust the time to 20 seconds. But you really do need to be able to flip that switch. Doing it on a watch just gets too crazy because you got to reset it and it turns off and does all those kind of things, right? Like this will happen, turnover, 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 and you're like switch, 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 switch. So you really do want to have the 20-second timer ready to go. All righty, we are going to do personal fouls right now. So let me share my screen. All righty. I'm going to do desktop 1. Right, I will share this. And we will do. Well, that did not work. Let me switch it up. Hold on. No. All righty. All right, personal fouls. Sort of All right. Personal fouls are fouls. Oh, actually, let me start at the beginning here. All right. Personal fouls are fouls of a serious nature, right? These are the big ones, okay? And ironically, the big ones are kind of the easiest ones to find, so it shouldn't be a huge problem for you. The real challenge of being an official is sort of the advantage, disadvantage stuff, and we'll get into that when we do technical fouls, right? So, remember, this is a physical game, right? This is not a collision sport, but this is a contact sport, okay? So a player in possession of the ball or within 5 yards of a loose ball from the front or the side, from the shoulder to the waist, may be body checked, okay? Again, possession is carrying, cradling, passing, and shooting, okay? There can be contact. So front or the side, right? Shoulders to the waist, right? This is kind of what we're talking about here. Right there. That is a legal lacrosse hit. So white is going to come in right from the front, and the side is going to knock that player down, right? Let's sort of back it up a little bit. Right, this is a good hit right here. Okay. And so just because the player falls to the ground, this player might get injured on this play, but that's a clean hit, right? At the high school level, that is a clean hit. So what factors go into trying to figure out what makes a legal hit, right? The first thing you're going to really talk about is level of play, right? Are we talking about a youth game? At a U8 game, that's not a legal hit, right? You're not allowed to put somebody on the ground, right? We call it a takeout check. But at a JV or varsity level, right? If the game starts and that's the first play of the game, I'm probably going to let that go. At the elite sort of summer league tournament kind of stuff or playoff lacrosse, I mean, that's a legal hit. Other factors that you want to think about: skill and physical ability of the players, right? You will play the Mighty Mites versus the Tiny Tots, okay? And that can be a really great high school team versus a really terrible high school team. That may adjust how you're going to call a game, right? A team with really big physical players versus a team that really doesn't know what they're doing. You're going to adjust how you officiate that game, right? Is the game tight? Is it a blowout, right? If the score has already been decided, we may rethink what we're going to allow for contact, okay? If the game's tight, we're going to call it the way we have called it throughout the game. Part of what I want you guys to understand is everybody wants us to be consistent, and we want to be consistent. But being consistent for an official means being consistent in that game. What you did in a previous game, all of these factors could have changed, right? What level of the game was it? What are the skill and physical abilities of the players? Was it a tight game or was it a blowout, right? You're going to reassess every time you do one of these contests, right? So there's a hit right there. Now, this is a college game, you will see, but this is right shoulder to shoulder from the front, big hit. Now, during this presentation, we will talk about the concept of unnecessary roughness. So you still have the ability to sort of say like, hey, that met the requirements of being a legal hit, below the shoulders, above the waist, from the front or the side, but it was unnecessary, right? And we'll get to that. Right, youth body checking rules, right? U6 and U8, there's no body checking at all, right? It's kind of like little kid basketball. U10 and up, U12, U14, well, up to 14. No takeout checks. You're within 3 yards of a loose ball, not 5 yards. You know, these kids are smaller. Upright position, both hands on the cross, and you got to be on your feet through contact, okay? You really want the players to play the ball. Really, incidental contact is kind of what you're going to allow at the youth level, right? That's kind of what we're looking for. You know, body contact, U8 through U12, or cross contact. We're looking at legal holds and legal pushes. You know, kind of boxing people out, defensive positioning to redirect an opponent, or incidental stuff, right? Now, checking with the cross. Again, in possession or within 5 yards of a loose ball at the sort of U15, JV, and high school level. The key with assessing a check with the cross is the player actually attempting to dislodge the ball? You can't just beat on a player because he's annoying you or his hand's there, right? The goal has to be to attempt to dislodge the ball. It's important to note that the gloved hand touching the cross is considered part of the cross. So I don't really care how hard you hit the gloved hand that is holding the cross. Let's take a look at this guy right here. This is a great check. Boom. Knocks the stick right out, picks the ball up, going the other way. So U8 through 12 stick checking, right? You can check the cross, you can check the gloved hand in possession within 3 yards of a loose ball. You want to do a lift check where you sort of come up from the bottom and try to knock his stick up. You can do a poke check where you come straight out at, or you can do a downward check. At the youth level, you have to initiate those downward checks from the shoulder down. So when you're coming in, you know, with your stick way up here, your sort of radar should be going off. So that's what you're kind of legally generally allowed to do. Let's talk about what the personal fouls are going to be. The personal fouls are going to be slashes, cross checks, tripping, illegal body checks, targeting the head and neck, unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct, illegal equipment and cross, and ejection fouls. These are fouls of a serious nature. We're talking about player safety and player conduct, play that is unnecessarily rough, dangerous, or unsportsmanlike. And you get a 1, 2, or 3 minute suspension from the game. So it's never going to be 1 minute and 15 seconds. It's never going to be 2 minutes and 20 seconds. It's a 1 minute, a 2 minute, or a 3 minute. And those can be releasable, which means if the other team scores a goal while you are in the penalty box, your foul has now expired. You can go back into the game, or a replacement can go back into the game. Or you can have a non-releasable penalty, and that means you serve that full time no matter if the other team scores or not, right? Those are the real big ones, okay? You will hear me say this a lot, but safety never takes a holiday, right? Our job is to make sure the game is safe first and foremost. When we get to technical fouls, our job is to make the game fair, right? But we're really talking about safety here. So let's talk about cross checks, right? This is rule 5.2. You may not check with the part of the handle between the hands by thrusting away or holding it extended from the body. The key here is that it is vicious and or deliberate, right? We're not talking about just contact with the area of the stick between the hands. We are talking about vicious and deliberate contact. So let's take a look at this. That's what we're talking about, right? The pop, the thrusting motion. You cannot use the cross as a weapon. That's the big thing. Boom, right here. Now, the other big foul that we'll see. Oh, go ahead.
Greg, was that high also?
It's not high, right? He gets him kind of right in the chest.
Okay.
We can go back here. Right. Again, when you say high,
I thought it was above the shoulders, or maybe not.
yeah, I mean, here's the problem is, and here's the issue that's always going to happen. Let me see if I can freeze it. Dear God.
I don't want to bog you down.
No, it's okay. But it's sort of important to note here, right? So he's really kind of right below the shoulders. Now, what's
Okay.
every coach on the sideline going to yell? That's in the head,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Which is why you are always watching the shooter as the trail. You can't be
Yeah.
like flipping your head and seeing this happen as it's happening. You've got to be on this play and see the contact from the beginning all the way through. Now,
Yeah.
is his head going to snap back? Yeah, but that's because
Yeah.
he's sort of off balance and he's getting cross-checked, right?
Yeah.
But where is that contact? And it's one of those things where you can't guess, you got to know, right? That's a great question. Right, slashing, swinging the cross at an opponent's body or cross with deliberate viciousness or reckless abandon. It has to be a definite blow or strike, and it's got to be a strike to the face, groin, neck, chest, back, or head. Basically, not on the gloved hand, not on the cross. Now, that being said, you can make contact with the head. You can make contact with the chest or the back, right? You cannot do it with viciousness, reckless abandon, it being a blow or a strike. If you just make contact, it can be what we call a brush, which is a no call. Okay. Just contact to the head alone at the high school level is not automatically a foul. And you're going to see a lot of parents and players and coaches scream and yell, well, he hit his head. Well, yeah, but it didn't really meet the bar of what we're talking about here. So let's take a look at this here. That is right in the thigh. And we've got the stick breaking, right? The fact that it's one-handed is irrelevant at the high school and JV level. One-handed stick checks are illegal. Now for youth above U14, they're legal. That's clearly a slash, right? We're not trying to dislodge the ball. We're doing it with deliberate viciousness and reckless abandon. It is a definite blow or strike, and we get him, right in the leg here. Come on, buddy. There we go. Right, gloved hand on cross. So
the X-rays reveal that I got.
The gloved hand of a player on the cross is considered part of the cross, right? So a defensive player may not repeatedly strike the gloved hand, right? He gets him right in the gloves there. He's trying to dislodge the ball. He has reasonable access to the player's cross, right? That's just a legal check, okay? We can sort of see what he does here. He doesn't quite get it, right? Here he comes. He's going to go over the top. He's one-handed. Again, at the high school level, that's legal, and he dislodges the ball, right? Great check. One-handed checks, legal at the high school level, U14 and U12. It is illegal for U10 and below, right? But check with your league, right? You always want to make sure, right? One-handed checks happen all the time, right? They don't always work, but they happen all the time. And in and of itself, it is not illegal, okay? So there are a couple of exceptions to slashing that I want to talk about, and these are by rule, right? If you are in the process of scooping a loose ball off the ground, right, and your stick comes up and hits somebody in the head or in the chest or in the, where they're not supposed to hit it, this isn't a slash because you are attempting to get a loose ball. If you are passing and your follow-through makes contact with your opponent, that is not a slash. And then finally, if you are shooting and you make contact with your opponent, it is not a slash, right? So these are the exceptions to the slashing rule. Now, if in your opinion, the offensive player in these three cases is intentionally trying to injure his opponent, you still can call a penalty. Okay, we'll talk about that when we get to goalies. All right. Here are multiple slashes, and you're going to see two flags on this play here. So red's taking the ball around. That's the first slash, right in the chest, and then right in the chest again. Okay. So let's watch this one more time. That's the first big body. Boom. And then boom, right in the junk right there. Note what both officials do. They close in on the players. Okay. We'll talk about this when we talk about being a good dead ball official. If somebody has physically injured somebody else, you do not want to turn away and start signaling your penalty, right? That will all take care of itself. You want to get in between mixed colors and make sure that you don't have any retaliation or repercussions or anything. You want to let the players know you're there. You want to be very close. You want to make sure somebody's got it until you go off to do what you need to do. Okay. Now, you can have multiple slashes, right? In this case, we've got two clear slashes on a player. So we're going to put them in for 2 minutes. Okay. Here's a pretty classic example of a terrible slash. Right, we'll see this again in super slow-mo. Boom, right on the knee, right? Again, a slash can be a 1, 2, or 3 minute releasable penalty. All right. Here's one more example you can get a look at. Watch this white defender here. That's one. We come down again and he misses. Oh, right. Yeah. So, these are clear examples of big hits. Now, just so you know, just because the player's on the ground, you can still check his cross. You cannot body check a player on the ground, but you can check their cross. Now, this guy's swinging his stick like he is chopping wood at a lumberjack competition, right? It's pretty easy to be like, I got to pay attention to that guy. Okay. When you see that stick way up there, the question is, if he lands it right, that's going to be fine. If he doesn't, it is very likely to be a slash. Michael, did you have a question?
I did have a question. You had said that the definition of a slash is deliberately violent. Does the intent to contact the other player come in at all? Because in the one that you were showing with the pickup game, very much if you watch, you can tell that the long pole is trying to play the cross, but the
question is, where does he hit him?
Okay.
Right?
So
if he had landed that check on the cross, I got no problem with that check.
If he'd been faster, he wouldn't be a slash, but because
it's where you get him, right?
Okay.
You can check the cross really as hard as you want to check the cross.
Right.
But if you miss him, now we're dealing with it is both reckless and vicious and deliberate. And if you get him, you get him. Right.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the intent of,
No, we're really not interested in intent when we're talking about where'd you get him and how hard was it?
Okay. Thank you.
Right. If it wasn't that hard, you can pass on it. If it was hard, you got to call it.
Right.
Right. Tripping. Every year I do this. I'm doing this for, 18 years. This is the worst written rule, I think, in sports. Tripping is obstructing an opponent at or below the waist with the cross, hands, feet, or arms by any positive primary action if the obstructing player is on his feet, or secondary action if not. At no point in the rule book does anybody ever describe what positive primary action is or secondary action. So let me tell you what tripping is. It's one of those things where you kind of know it when you see it, right? We're talking about safety fouls right now. So what we're really talking about is the big stumble, right? And we're talking about at or below the waist with the cross, hands, feet, or arms. Okay. Or if you're on the ground, are you, leg whipping him or doing one of these things. So let me show you an example of a pretty clear example of what definitely tripping is. That's a pretty clear example of using the cross below the waist to bring the player to the ground, right? That is clearly a 1 minute penalty, clearly a trip. Here's another example. Right? He's going to use his cross. He goes for the check. He misses, and he catches the guy's feet right here, and the guy goes to the ground. Clearly a 1 minute penalty. Okay. So just like with slashes, there are exceptions to the tripping rule. If you trip over a player's own cross, if you trip over your own cross, it's not a trip. A legal check, right, where I check your cross and you fall over your own cross, that's not on me. My personal favorite, falling over the leg of a stationary defender. If a defender is just standing there and you run right into him and trip over his feet, you created the contact, right? The other guy didn't do anything. He was just standing there, and he's got a right to that space, right? If you would just run around him, you would have been fine. Tripping over the cross of a player attempting to scoop a loose ball. So that is an exception to the tripping rule, and it's important to know those, right? This is a good check where the player is going to trip over his own cross. Right? So he just kind of goes to the ground. The cross, the check is right on his cross. We can see this again. Oh, wait, I got to do it this way. Right there. That's a good check right on his gloved hand. Now he goes down, but that's not a foul, right? That's legal contact. It just, he falls down, right? So we've talked about what a legal body check is. Basically, an illegal body check is everything that is not a part of a legal body check, right? So not within 5 yards of a loose ball, from behind, below the waist, or above the shoulders. You really have to have two hands on the cross when you make contact with somebody, okay? Is it avoidable or late, right? The ball is more than 5 yards away, or the pass has already been made and you still line them up and hammer them. Or here's what I was talking about. Opponent has any part of his body other than his feet on the ground. Now, I will say this. The illegal body check personal foul is really designed for, again, the safety issue. If you body check or you make contact with somebody, and it's not particularly vicious or deliberate, but let's say the guy's knees on the ground and his hand on the ground, you can literally just say that's a legal procedure and award the ball to the other team. Okay? You're not really worried about safety. The guy got pushed. It doesn't automatically need to be a personal foul. And we'll talk about my sort of philosophy about that in our fourth meeting. But if you blow somebody up, this is kind of what we're looking for, right? We're looking on the high hits, the real big nasty stuff. This is what we're looking for when we're talking about an illegal body check. So let me go back and I'll show you this clip here. Right? Clearly from behind, clearly late, lines them up, shots away, and we hammer them. Right? This is the trail official's responsibility. The trail official has got to see this play. I can't emphasize this enough. The trail shouldn't know whether a goal was scored. The trail needs to see that contact on the shooter from the beginning of it to the moment he's on the ground, right? That's the only thing you're zeroed in on. Now, checks involving the head and neck, and I've got my little new sticker here because we've sort of changed this up from last year. You cannot initiate excessive, violent, or uncontrolled slash or a body check to the head and neck, okay? Now, this can be called on the offense, and this can be called on the defense. They've mirrored what the college guys are doing. So in college, we've got what is called indirect contact, direct contact, and we actually have what's called flagrant contact. Indirect contact, the contact starts out legally, it slides up and makes contact with the head. 1 minute non-releasable foul. You're going to sit the whole time. The other team, if they score a goal, they're going to get a man-up face-off. Direct contact is a 2 to 3 minute non-releasable foul. And that's direct contact to the head. It doesn't start legal and slide up. Now, you can have indirect contact, starts legal, slides up, but it's still really nasty. You can still go multiple minutes with that, right? Let me show you the example here. Here's an offensive player who clearly lowers his head and drives the crown of his head directly into the other player. That is spearing. And so we're going to go multiple minutes on an offensive player here, right? It can be checks involving the head and neck of the opponent. It can be also using your head as a weapon here, right? You also have the possibility with this foul of just saying, hey, this is going to be a 3-minute foul and I am going to eject the player. Okay. In this case, you know, this is close to this is definitely a 2 or 3 minute, and depending upon what else is going on in the game, I'm thinking about ejection here. Here's a situation where I've seen this clip a million times. I'll let you watch it, and then we'll sort of see what they say. Okay, so I'm going to take it back to the beginning here. All this contact right here is legal, right? We're just playing defense. We're running around. He can push him from the side. He pushes him from the front. That's legal. We're now fighting for the ball. We pick it up. We're running. Ball goes down. And 68 comes in and just ear holes this kid. Right? So here comes, what is it, 69. 69 comes in and is going to make contact, lowers the head. Boom. He's going to hammer this kid. So what we're looking at here is this is clearly to the head, right? This is right in the ear hole. We are very much looking at multiple minutes here, right? This is not indirect. The contact didn't start legally and slide up. It went straight to the head. So at a minimum, we're looking at a 2-minute non-releasable penalty. Possibly 3, possibly ejection, depending upon what's going on. So what factors go into, hey, are we going to eject this kid? Well, how many minutes of penalties does this kid already have? If you get 5 personal fouls, 5 minutes of personal fouls, you're already disqualified from the game. You're DQ'd, right? So if somebody's got 3 slashes, you can just do a 2-minute and he's now no longer a problem for you. If you have steadily ramped up because this player has been going after people, maybe you started with a 1 minute and then now you're at a 2-minute. This is the 3rd time. You can go 3 minutes and eject them, right? It's sort of up to what you and your crew are seeing in the game. I will say one of the really important things about doing this, you never want to immediately announce what you are doing if you've got an injured player. If that kid's down for a couple of minutes, you don't want to come out and be like, oh, well, that was a push or that was legal. You're going to wait and see how it plays out, right? and you're going to have conversations with other members of your crew, hopefully more experienced members of your crew, and you're going to sort of see what's going on. Now, there's also a rule in this about checking a defenseless player. You cannot body check somebody from the blind side. You can't, and you can make contact with somebody, but you can't blow somebody up from the blind side. You cannot, if a player has their head down playing a loose ball, you can't blow that kid up. A buddy pass. I'll show you an example of a buddy pass in a second, but a buddy pass is a pass where the guy's got to go up and really sort of stretch out and just leaves himself wide open. You can't destroy that guy, right? Or on the ground in a defenseless position or engaged in a face-off. Automatically 2 to 3 minutes. But we're not talking about just contact. We are talking about really, really destroying that guy, right? So let's look at some example, and of course, potential for ejection here. So let's look at this example. So he's clearly trying to play a loose ball. He turns and he just gets obliterated, right? It looks like the skill level here is not particularly high. Again, these big hits are the hits that they really want us to take out of the game. Okay. You cannot just obliterate people. Now, if you watch college games, I need you to know there is no defenseless player rule in college, right? Those are 18 to 21-year-old athletes who do nothing but this. At the high school level, we want the emphasis to be on skill. Contact is allowed, but kind of obliterating people is not what we're looking for. Right? He's got his head down. He's turning. Boom. Right? You can also say this is high. You can also say, it's up in the head. But you're clearly looking. And the advantage of this rule, of the defenseless player rule, is it automatically starts at 2 minutes. Right? Here's another example. Right? 30 comes in. White has no idea this is happening. He's playing a loose ball, and he just gets lined up and obliterated. Right? That is a clear example of what we're talking about here. Let's see that again. And boom. Right? Could we call this a cross check? Yes, because he's leading with the cross. But the intent of this rule is to ramp up that penalty. If you go cross check, you can go 1, 2, or 3 minutes releasable. If you go defenseless player, again, you're locking him in at minimum 2 minutes, possibly 3, and you have the option of an ejection.
Hey,
Right?
Greg, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you determine the 2 versus 3? I know some of it gonna come down to like intent. So how do you determine, which is the 2?
Some of the factors that I think about, right? Is this the first time, like for me is are we playing lacrosse or are we trying to kind of really take somebody out? What is the level of play that we have allowed up to now? Right? If you have a game where nothing's really happening and there's not a lot of big hits, and then you see that, like that's sort of out of the ordinary, right? And so you may say, hey, we got to start with 2, or you may go to your partner and be like, no, that was egregious. We're going to go with 3. Is this player been a problem for you? Right? Usually the guys that are doing the big hitting, it's not like the first time they've done the big hitting, right? So if you've already given this guy, 3 minutes of penalty times, if you give him 2 more, he's out of your hair, right? He's going to be disqualified. Or do you want to send a message to the team? You've already talked to the coaches. You've said, guys, we've really got to tamp this down, right? How long is that kid who got hurt down for? Right? If he's out of the game, why are we just putting the other guy out of the game for a minute or 2 minutes, right? If this kid can't play for the rest of the season, if we've got to call the ambulance, that kind of stuff. You want to meet the moment here. And a lot of this is experience and sort of what you've seen throughout the game. We're going to talk about this in our next Zoom call next Wednesday. So it's not like I'm trying to ignore your conversation and question, but we will get into those details later on. All right, here's the buddy pass. Boom. Right? Here's another factor you can talk about, right? Distance traveled. There's nothing really in the rule book that says you can't run all the way across the field and hit somebody. But if you run all the way across the field and it appears that your sole intent is to obliterate that person, you're not really playing the ball or trying to dislodge the ball at that point in time. You're trying to obliterate somebody, right? So let's take a look at this one again. Right? That's a big versus a little. That's a big hit. You got to have a flag there. And again, we don't announce this immediately. This kid's probably going to be down for a second. It's a great time for you and your partner, once the teams have separated, to sort of have that conversation. Has this kid been a problem? What's the temperature of the game? What's the physical ability? What's the score? What have we called on number 11 up until now, right? All of those things are going to factor in. Here's a blindside hit. Right? Never sees it coming. And you can see the flag from the right-hand side of the screen come in. So you've got the situation, blindside buddy pass. You sort of know that this rule applies. You get the big hit. This has got to be a flag, right? Now, if White had just stood there and the kid had run into him and dropped the ball, that's nothing, right? But he sort of runs through him, and that's what we're trying to get rid of here. This is a great call.
Greg,
yeah.
On a buddy pass, if the defender meets the guy in the attacker that if he meets him in the front,
yeah,
and he gives him a couple, is there a certain number of steps?
No, there's no number of steps. It doesn't matter if the kid can flip his head around and see that the contact is coming. Again, you can play the cross. There can be contact, but you're looking for the play that blows the kid up.
Okay. All right.
Right. If you blow the kid up and you're in one of these situations, it's got to be a flag. Right.
Okay.
That's what you're looking for. Right.
Yeah.
Now, you will get into games where you have two elite teams playing each other and it's very physical. Again, you're maybe a little less likely to call those fouls, right? Because you're going to let a little more physical play happen. But, clearly this is a big, big hit. This kid has no chance. It's not, he doesn't run through this. He doesn't sort of spin out of it. He gets obliterated. This is clearly a flag. All right, targeting. You cannot intend. This is the only rule that really uses the word intentionally. This is clearly a play where the intent is not to play the ball, but to injure your opponent, right? You are purposefully making violent contact on a player or a player in a defenseless position. And this is automatically 3 minutes, and we are thinking about ejection. Okay, so let me show you a classic example. Ignore the rule reference that's on the screen here. It's changed over the years. Look at this guy. The ball is behind X, and he's mad at his defenseman, and so he's going to come up, and he's just going to hammer this kid in the back of the neck. To me, this is a 3-minute foul, and the player's ejected. Like, we're not playing lacrosse here. You're not trying to dislodge the ball. You're not trying to score. You're not trying to get the ball back for your team. You're just pissed at somebody, and you want to injure them, right? The ball is here, and this is where the contact's happening, right? I like to think of these as you're not playing lacrosse here. So let's watch this example.
Oh,
Clearly not a lacrosse play, right? Now, if you watch this play, right, as he comes up, right, we got some legal contact here. There's a little bit of a hold at the beginning, and then they push each other away, and he gives him a little, hey, screw you. And, this is why you keep watching, because you don't want to be the only person on the field that doesn't see this, right? This is going to be videotaped by 11 moms, 12 dads, the guy videotaping the game for white and the guy videotaping the game for red, and everybody's watching this play. You have got to focus on mixed colors, particularly when you've got a foul, particularly when you're stopping play and those colors are next to each other, right? So until white's over here and red's over here, we are zeroed in on what is going on. Right? To me, that's an ejection, right? You can't do that. That's not, you're not even playing lacrosse. It's a dead ball, right? So I'm ejecting that kid. So here's a rule that came into lacrosse kind of in the late 80s, early 90s. So unnecessary roughness, right? Excessively violent holding and pushing, right? So you're throwing somebody to the ground or you're legally pushing somebody, but we're sort of getting into a safety issue. Hits that are avoidable or late. So the shot's been made, the goal scored, then you kill somebody. Punching blows. Running through a screen that you clearly see and blowing the kid up. And here's the important part. It may include a legal check. From the front, from the side, above the waist, below the shoulders, right? This is the big giant hit. And the reason the coaches put this rule in was that when I was playing in the 80s, my job as a wing guy on a faceoff was to go in and obliterate the faceoff guy for the other team. Just hit him in the ear hole, right? And referees would say, well, that contact was kind of legal. Like it was from the side, right? We're just playing lacrosse here. And coaches were saying, look, our faceoff guy is really important to us. He keeps getting his collarbone broken, and then I got to go to my second and third string faceoff guy, and they're not as good. And I'm losing these games. So how do we make something that meets the requirements of a legal hit illegal? And what we did was we gave the referee the opportunity to say, well, it might be legal, but that is unnecessary. Right? Right. This is what we're talking about. So let me show you this example. Right. That's right in the chest. That is, in college, that's a legal hit. In high school, I can say that that's unnecessary. I don't have to, right? If this kid pops right up, and he's all good. But again, what we're going to do is during the game, we are going to constantly be talking to our partners. What contact have we allowed? If we allow this hit in the first quarter, we have to allow this hit in the fourth quarter. If we call this in the second quarter, we've got to call it for the rest of the game as unnecessary roughness, right? We have to remain consistent with how your partners are calling the game. That's the real key thing here. Here's a clear example of unnecessary roughness. Right? I mean, you could also go defenseless player here, but again, you have options. You got to think of it as kind of the poo-poo platter. So take this. This was my job in high school, by the way. Right? You could call incidental. It starts legal and slides up into the head. You got a lot of options here, right? So you want to understand where you are in the game and what's happening. But your radar should be beeping at this point in time when you see that kid running in. Unsportsmanlike conduct, right? Arguing or maligning with officials. You can tell me I suck all day long. I really don't care, right? I've heard it all before. I've had thousands of people chant that I'm terrible, right? But if it starts getting personal, that's kind of where my line is. Dropping F-bombs that anybody can hear other than just me and the other teammate, right? If you tell the the F and middies, you got to drop in and play defense. I might go to the goalie and be like, hey, 38, just watch the language. If grandma can hear it in the third row, it's got to be a flag in a high school game, right? Taunting, sort of, I don't mind a big celebration after a goal or a great defensive play. I mind a celebration that focuses on the opposing team, right? You can't throw a cross at a player, coach, or official. You can't throw a cross at the ball. This is a non-releasable unsportsmanlike conduct, right? And here's my favorite: any act considered unsportsmanlike by the officials. 1, 2, or 3 minute. Using tobacco, right, is another one. These are big fouls, right? Right. Here we got fighting. This is a pretty classic example. We're throwing punches. Right. Leaving the bench to participate in a fight. These are all situations where, we're going to be ejecting a lot of people. One of the key things to understand about the non-releasable unsportsmanlike conduct is that if you get 2 non-releasable unsportsmanlike conducts, you are automatically ejected from the game. And that second unsportsmanlike, even if it was just for yelling the F-bomb, automatically becomes a 3-minute ejectable foul, right? Here's a classic example of the play is dead. This official is in great position. We think we are escorting a player off the field. I don't know if we're ejecting him or if we are just walking him off to the penalty area, but this seems like a pretty heightened issue. Just watch what happens here. So this is sucker punching an opponent while you're walking them off the field, right? Get in between mixed colors, right? This is right at the benches. You've got a couple of white players. You've got a couple of blue, that entire bench of blue players. The coaches are standing there. This is clearly, if you have not already ejected this blue player, you are ejecting him now, right? And again, you're going to throw a flag on, even if you've ejected blue and he does this, now he's a non-player who's committed a foul and you can have a second flag on him. And for me, that's going to be 3-minute non-releasable. And I'm going to put the in home and they're going to be 2 men down. Right. You got to be paying attention when it gets weird. Here's an example of throwing the cross. This is Georgia Tech and South Carolina in the MCLA semifinals from a couple of years ago. This is sort of a club lacrosse league. They've got great teams and they do really well. They're really fun games to do.
The officials come together if they're not sure. That one picked off coming the other direction. Wow. I believe that's a flag. Ball is here. Smart play. Yeah, gonna get the flag down here, but that one was absolutely going in the goal.
Yes, as a goalie or a player, you are not allowed to throw your cross in the air at the ball, at other game personnel, or at another player. That's a 1 to 3 minute non-releasable foul. Okay. Now, there are releasable unsportsmanlike conducts. They kind of happen all the time. Repeatedly committing the same technical foul. If you're doing a face-off and the guy's getting beat all the time and he's constantly going early and he does it like 3 times in a row, you might put him in for a releasable 1-minute penalty. Failing to return immediately to the field while legally in the game. So you run out of bounds and you kind of run down the sideline. Deliberately failing to comply with the rules for entering the field to play. Like you come on the field for the 3rd time and I've warned you, put your mouthpiece in and it's, stuck on the top of your helmet. Or the second violation of a defensive player other than the goalkeeper entering his crease to block a shot. We'll talk about that when we get to crease play. But these are examples of releasable unsportsmanlike conducts. They do not count towards an ejection. You can get as many releasable unsportsmanlike conducts as you want. Now, that being said, I think I've called repeatedly committing the same technical foul one time in 24 years, right? Coach obstructing play, right? A coach cannot be on the field and obstruct play. That means getting in the way of you, okay? This is a 1 to 3 minute releasable unsportsmanlike conduct foul, okay? Finally, the ejection foul, right? Striking or attempting to strike anyone. You throw a punch, I don't care if you hit anybody, you're getting tossed. Leaving the bench during a fight. I will say this, everybody tends to leave the bench during a fight. For me, it's more leaving the bench during a fight and engaging in the fight. Use of tobacco is clearly an ejection. Second, non-releasable unsportsmanlike conduct, or whatever we're going to call flagrant misconduct. Okay. Players got to leave and go out of the facility if there's somebody to watch him, right? A parent or another administrator or school personnel. If they can't leave, you have them sort of take off their jersey and equipment and sit on the bench. Okay. All right. Who do we have fouls on here?
55.
Yeah. Does White do anything?
No.
No. Right? Just because you have a fight doesn't mean you're automatically going to. I mean, this kid puts his hands up. He's like, I'm not doing anything. Right? I love the parent that yells, Carter, you're an idiot. Right? It's kind of round up the usual suspects for those of you who are Casablanca fans. Right? You tend to know, right? Like I do a lot of research when I do games, high-level high school games or college games. I'm going to watch the game film of a couple of games beforehand. I'm going to look at the penalty sheets. I'm going to look at the max prep stats, right? The kid that's been leading your team in ejections and penalty minutes, he's not going to suddenly have a change of heart and come to Jesus moment and be great the next game, right? He's probably going to do the same thing. So you should probably know who that person is, right? So it's important to watch things. Now, I will say, as we watch this, this is the punch there, boom, he's getting ejected, right? I'm not mad at the blue players for pulling him off. The referee does a great job. He gets right in there. The other referee comes over. I'm a little worried about kind of what's going on over here, right? We need to get over there because, again, things can escalate. Don't have the conversation until you have separated colors, okay? When everything gets crazy, you always want to slow down. There is no need to speed up, right? You want to de-escalate the situation. You want to get in between those players. Now, do you have to break up a fight? You do not. Can you break up a fight? Yes. Right. So there are times I will get in there because I'm an idiot, and there are times that I won't. But usually I'm more of an idiot than anything else, and I sort of get in there. Right. So it's kind of up to you. I will tell you that a Fox 40 finger whistle in the back of somebody's ear will very much get their attention. Okay. It's one of your better tools for breaking up a fight. Here's a classic example of an ejection foul. Like, I have no doubt about what's going on here. Yeah. Mom's got it right there. What the F? This is a cross check to the neck and the head. This is late, high, to the neck, and violent. This kid's gone. Okay, this is a 3-minute non-releasable penalty. And you're probably going to have a conversation with your partner because the other team is now going to want to kind of, they got one of our guys, so we're going to get one of their guys. This is one of those moments where now you're reevaluating how you're going to call this game after a big hit like this. right? Here is an example of right now we got a coach punching a player. I will say again, if you do football, you know the deal. When you've got a player on the other team's sidelines and their coaches and players and everybody's around, you've got to get in there and get in between what is happening. You want to prevent these things from happening. But this is clearly an ejection for this coach. Okay. We're putting hands on a kid. No. So how do you eject coaches? Right? How do you eject players? It's automatic. If you're ejecting, it's automatically 3 minutes non-releasable, right? It's only going to be 1 minute for a coach. And the idea here, they changed this a couple of years, is we weren't really doing the 3-minute penalty on the coach because we didn't want to punish the kids. So the idea now is we're just doing a 1-minute penalty on the coach. The coach has to leave, right? The bench in the field area. And like I said, the ejected player, substitute, or non-team member has to leave if there's an authorized school personnel to supervise. If not, they're confined to the bench. Right? Whenever you have one of these big things, you're going to fill out an incident report. You can find that incident report under the Contact Us tab on Georgia Lacrosse Officials. I will tell you this. If something happens that is crazy in your game, there's a fight, there's a big injury, there's a lot of penalties, coaches are screaming at you the entire time, the ambulance comes. The first thing you do when you're getting in the car is you call the person who assigned you the game. If you don't know who that is, you call me. What you're going to have to do within the next couple of hours is fill out the incident report so that we can pass that along to GHSA, whatever league that we're dealing with, if it's a youth game, but we need that information. If you drive home and think, well, I'll take care of this tomorrow morning, I can assure you that 45 people have called me, other board members, and all the assigners. I'm pretty sure that by the time you get to your house, I've got the film in my inbox. So if you don't know what to do, you always call me. But really who you need to call is your assigner. And that's the first thing you do when you're getting your car and you get out of there. Okay. All right.
Question for you real quick. You froze. Or I froze.
If not you.
Okay, was it me or was it Greg?
I think it's Greg.
Oh, okay. I'll wait for him to come back then.
Look like he froze.
Well, maybe one of you guys know. I'll ask you guys. Do any of you know, is there like an equivalent of putting in warnings, like after a batter gets hit in baseball? Like, so if a player gets just absolutely taken out and blown up and you've got to eject somebody, a way of like putting in warnings to the benches of, hey, don't do this again, because we're definitely on the lookout for it.
Yeah, so when I played in high school, the refs would always come up and talk to coaches. And I do remember like them coming up to me personally if I was getting a little out of hand or the coaches were getting a little out of hand. The refs would always come up and be like, hey guys, cut it out a little bit, whatever. They'll threaten to call a penalty. And then, of course, if it happens again, then they'll call whatever it is.
Okay. I play OGL and it's the same. It's the same way with us, but I've having only started the game as an adult, I don't know exactly how it's done in like high school and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's how I did in hockey. When I was reffing hockey games, it'd be like, because coaches would get out of hand because it's, high school hockey and they'd get real into it. It's like, all right, buddy, calm down a little bit. Let's talk about it, But if you're going to keep coming at me, I'm going to start coming at you with stuff.
right.
I tend to start football off with a sideline warning before the game even starts, so I'm bad.
Okay.
You get a sideline warning when I just step on the field. I just look at you. Here's your warning. Next time it's a penalty. We didn't even start the game.
Don't act a fool because I'm coming for you.
I'm like, now y'all know how I feel for the rest of the day. And the funny thing about it, I never threw a flag.
Well, see, I did play hockey, and we had one ref. His name was John, and he would tell us straight out. He was like, "Look, I don't care what happens during the game. I'm only ever taking one of you. So figure out which one of you wants to screw up worse. Because I'm not taking two people at once. There will be a power play." It was like, whoa. And that's how he did it.
I wonder if he's gone, because he definitely got kicked out the zone.
I wonder if he even knows. Well,
Yeah, because he got kicked out. He's just a left group.
Oh.
Yeah, like it froze and then all of a sudden it just went out.
He sent an email, said he's restarting his computer and will be back on in a minute.
Well, smoke them if you got them.
Hey, real quick question. Have any of y'all tried to get on the arbiter yet?
Did he just freeze up?
When does the season start? Does anybody know?
I think tryouts for a lot of schools started this week. You'll have scrimmages starting like first or second week in February.
All right. Thank you. See if I could install some practices, go to some practices and practice in my local schools.
I know the GLO for youth leagues will start second weekend in February.
Holy cow, it's in 3 weeks, right?
Is their first games. So if you're doing youth games as well as high school, that'll start that second Saturday in February.
That sounds like long pants, long sleeves.
Yeah, thermals underneath.
Man, you're not kidding.
Just because that I was a medic in the military. That's one thing I will tell you: be careful when it's cold out, wearing thermals and stuff like that, because if you're running full field, about halfway through a game, you can go down on you can actually go down from heat.
Wow.
Give it the silver bullet, baby.
Overdress him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
All righty. Sorry about that. I think I thought I had my computer plugged in, but I had plugged into the computer, but apparently not into the outlet, which is sort of a key thing one is supposed to plug it into. All right, let's go to technical fouls. I think we're going to run a little bit longer. If you guys need to jump off at 9, I really want to be respectful of your time. I will just continue recording and you guys can watch it sort of on your own. Yeah, let's bring this up. So share my screen here.
Hey, Greg, can you answer a question real quick while you're getting set up?
Sure.
Do you want us to try and bring a timer Saturday?
You don't need a timer on Saturday.
Okay.
the kind of the first week, second week of February is when our scrimmages are going to be. You really want a timer by then, right? We're going to show you how to use the timer on Saturday, but you don't need one, right? You can dress casually. It's going to be cold. Wear stuff because we may go outside depending if it's not really wet or rainy, just so you can sort of see on a field where you might want to stand. That sort of deal. All right, pull up this.
Does anybody know where you can find a rep smart right now?
I would look on Honig's.
I wonder why they check, because everybody's sold out.
Yeah.
What do you want?
The rep smart.
A ref what?
Ref Smart. It's
timer.
like a timer.
Oh. That place in College Park, I went to for some of the clothes. They have a timer there.
Yeah, but I'm gonna call them then because I'm looking for a specific one.
Okay. It's that one brick and mortar place that Greg mentioned.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we're going to talk about technical fouls, right? These are fouls of a less serious nature, right? So we're talking about pushing and holding and like illegal procedure and delay and interference and illegal screen, withholding, warding, illegal touching, substitution fouls, offsides, conduct, stalling. We are not worried about safety. So the two things you need to put into your brain are when you see a play and you think, wow, that doesn't look right. Are you worried about their safety or are you worried about whether that was fair or not? If you're worried about whether that was fair, it's a technical foul. If you are worried about whether it was a safety issue, it's almost always a personal foul. That's a great way to sort of judge what's going on, right? This is rule 6. Also, I got my rule book, so I will be making a copy available to you guys. Please do make sure you are signing up for Dragonfly. As soon as you do that, you can download the NFHS All Access app, and you can get access to the online rulebook. The online rulebook is nice because you can sort of, control F and search through it. Right. Concept that we talk about in this is the principle of advantage, disadvantage. If you're a basketball official, you totally know what I'm talking about here, right? Could have been a foul, but nobody was really disadvantaged. Nobody gained an advantage. We're just going to let play happen, right? This is mostly for judgment calls, right? This never applies to line calls. If you are in the crease, you are in the crease. If you are offsides, you are offsides. If you are out of bounds, you're out of bounds. There's no judgment there. You either are or you are not. It never applies to safety calls. Like, we're never not going to call a safety call. But for a lot of these, should we blow the whistle immediately? There was no advantage. There was no disadvantage. Play continues. Why would we stop it to give the ball to the person that already has the ball? Right? Holding. A player may not impede the movement of a player or cross, hold an opponent with hand or body, hand or cross. They may exert equal pressure on a player in possession if both hands are on the cross. They may hold a player from the front or side of his cross within 5 yards of a loose ball. So people will say he's holding him, and I will say, yes, he is. It's a loose ball. They are both within 5 yards of the loose ball, and they are preventing him from getting the loose ball, right? If you grew up playing lacrosse, you did what was called a man ball drill. 2 guys against 1. One guy calls man and holds the opponent from getting to the ball, and the other guy calls ball and scoops up the ball, and he yells release, and then off we go, right? Think basketball and equal pressure, right? That's kind of what we're going for here. Here's an example of equal pressure, right? Here's the defender, right? Yes, this is from behind, but this is just playing defense here, okay? That's just good defense, right? The defender has a right to his space and his position. The offensive player is turning his back towards that player. So he's making what might have been a legal check an illegal check, and we're going to let that go. Okay. Not worried about safety here. There doesn't really seem to be advantage or disadvantage, right? If you're a football guy, think about how you would call holding on the offensive line. You're looking for them to steer that defensive tackle or that end to a place where he doesn't really want to go, right? This is just, we're playing defense here. Now, you can do what is called the cross-check hold. You can use the part of the stick in between your hands as long as your hands are less than shoulder width apart. If your hands get wider than shoulder width, then this becomes a hold, okay? So let's take a look at this example. Here's a classic loose ball hold, right? Ball's loose. We sort of shove this guy to the ground with a check. He's clearly disadvantaged, right? Now, could this have been a trip? Maybe, right? But I'm not really worried about this kid's safety. And so this is something that I can be like, look, white is clearly disadvantaged here. I'm just going to give them the ball back. The ball's loose. You have a technical foul. You award the ball to white. You restart play. Right? The hold is often used on this play. You know, the stick gets up towards the neck. Everybody's screaming and yelling that, hey, you know, you can't be up there. But, you know, the stick is up by his neck. He's not hammering him. He's not slashing him. He's just got his stick outstretched. I've seen guys run through this, right? I actually did this game. And so I'm very familiar with this play. The contact is not serious or dangerous, right? There's just a stick up by the player's neck, but it looks terrible. Now, can this player be disadvantaged by forcing to move his head up and down and not really having great line of sight to where he wants to be? Yes. Could you call this a hold? Yes. Could you call this a no call? Yes. Right? Again, we want to be consistent throughout the game. Here's a hold, clearly a hold around the neck.
On the attacking player. This is a holding foul. Officials need to be observant to make sure that the point of contact is not on the head or neck. In this example, the cross is very high up on the shoulders and possibly on the neck. Cross to pull back on the attacking.
Now, are we worried about really this kid's safety? Not in this play, right? This is not violent, vicious, deliberate contact to the head and neck. This is, he wraps him around the neck and the chest and kind of drags him down. Clearly disadvantaged. This is a classic hold. Here's a game that I was on a couple of years ago. You will see this play a lot. Watch the red attackman off ball, number 9. He's in the middle of the field right now. He is going to chicken wing his defender. He's got his arm wrapped around that defender's cross, and he's not letting him actually have free reign of his stick. You can see the defender trying to pull. Right? And so we make the call and we give the ball to the other team. The way technical fouls work is if a team is in possession of the ball and they are fouled, it's a flag. It's going to be a 30-second foul, okay? If they are in possession of the ball and they are the ones who commit the foul, you simply award the ball to the other team. If the ball is loose and somebody is fouled, you award the ball to the team that was fouled. So when I talked about possession being really important, technical fouls, you got to understand possession: carrying, cradling, passing, and shooting. Pushing. It is legal to push, just like a body check, right? Somebody in possession or within 5 yards of a loose ball, from the front or the side, from the shoulder to the waist. Pushing from behind is illegal, right? Violent contact is always going to be a personal foul, right? So here is an example, like that's from behind. That's clearly a push. Here's another example.
Good save by the South Carolina player. Oh, yeah. Oh, my. The referee throws a flag on that one.
Let's watch what happens here. The player in red is running out of bounds. He's running out of room and he's coming in. And before he gets out of bounds, you have clear contact from white from behind, which shoves him out of bounds. Now, if we remember what happens when a player steps out of bounds and they're in possession, we're going to give the ball to the other team, right? Well, that's clearly disadvantaging the red player here. He's stepping out of bounds. Why is he out of bounds? Because of white's contact. Okay. This is not violent. This is not vicious. I am not worried about anybody's safety, but this is a call that you have to make. Shoving somebody out of bounds from behind clearly disadvantages them. That is a 30, and red is in possession here. So this is clearly a 30-second foul, right? So white's going to go to the box for 30 seconds.
Good save by the stop.
Here's an example of a loose ball push on a faceoff. You can see white shoves number 9 from the ground. We kill it immediately. We give the signal and we point the direction of play, right? The ball is loose, so it's not a time-serving foul. We're just going to give it to the other team and we're going to restart play. Here's a good no call. Right. Is there contact from behind? A little bit. Let's see that again. Yeah, but does he ever lose his feet? He's still looking at the goal. He's got a better shot than he did before. Not a flag that you need to throw. And just so you know, if you did throw that flag and he scores the goal, a technical foul is wiped out by a goal. A personal foul is never wiped out by a goal, but a technical foul is always wiped out by a goal. All right. There's a legal push from the side on the goalkeeper. Right, so the ball's gonna, we're gonna throw the ball to the goalkeeper. We're gonna push from the side. That's a legal hit. Ball goes out of bounds. Right, not a flag. This is not a flag here. This is contact from the side. Ball goes out of bounds off the goalkeeper. Give the ball back to yellow. Now,
if you're pushing if you're pushing someone from the side, can you leave your feet?
Again, yes, right. Okay. If you're at the high school level, yes, you can leave your feet. The question becomes is if you're talking about really violent pushing, now you're in personal foul territory, right? Okay. So you technically could go unnecessary roughness. But if it's legal contact, leaving your feet does not automatically make it a foul, right?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things you want to do when you are an official is you want to put yourself in the position to actually see the foul. If you're looking at a play straight on, it's often very difficult to see what's happening, right? This image on the left here, you can't really see where this contact is. If we look on the image on the right, there's clearly space between these guys. We don't have a legal contact. This is just a great check, right? So adjusting your position when you're the on-ball official to really see where that contact is, it's often, you got to see a little bit of what's happening behind the play. You can't just stare at the offensive player. You've got to move yourself to get yourself into position. Warding, you can't use your free arm. You can use your free arm to keep it stationary and guard your stick. You cannot use your free arm to push off or grab the defender's cross, right? If you've got two hands on your cross, you can push away at a defender's cross. You cannot push away at a defender's body. So I can show you some examples here. Right? In order for it to be a ward, you have to have contact and you have to have an advantage. If you want to run down the field doing this with your free arm, that's totally fine. But until you create contact with somebody trying to check your cross and create an advantage, it's not a foul. Here's a really good example of a ward. Watch the white player here. He is going to shove his defender's cross away with his free hand. Right? So he comes up here and he's going to shove that cross away and flip the ball to his teammate. Clearly a ward. Right. Again, like I was saying, you can make contact with the defender's cross and clear it out with your two hands and your cross, but you cannot push away from the body of the defender. Right. This is Miles Jones. He's one of the top pro players, one of the top college players, just an absolute magnificent lacrosse player. This was kind of his move, right? He steps into a defender. He pushes their cross away and he steps back and he just rips a shot. And this was becoming a really common move that players were adopting. And the committee wanted to make this a legal play, right? So two hands on the cross, you can push away at the defender's cross, just not their body. This is good dodge, two hands on the cross. All right, we're going to run right through that defender. Boom. Right? That is a legal play, right? He's not pushing off of him. He can run through him. Okay. We'll see it again. All right. Interference. Interference is a play that really the off-ball official is going to have, as I mentioned last week when we talked about positioning. Player cannot interfere with the free movement of an opponent who's not in possession or within 5 yards of a loose ball. So I want you to watch this clip. This is a foul that occurs away from the ball. So there's the ball. I want you to watch these guys in the video clip, what number 6 does. Right, so the ball's at X. Right, number 6 shoves the opponent into the crease. He can't be in the crease. That's a crease violation. He's not allowed to play him. He can find him. He can sort of find where his stick is. He can tap his stick, but you can't knock a player's cross out of his hands. That makes him a non-player. You definitely can't shove him from behind and into his crease, right? So this is clearly interference on number 6, right? Here is checking the stick out of an opponent more than 5 yards away from the ball. All right, we're moving it around the horn. All right, watch right in here. Just check White's stick out of his hand. And the flag immediately goes down because White is in possession of the ball. Even though it happens to a player who's not in possession, White as a team is in possession. So this is what we're going to call a flag down slow whistle. Nothing bad essentially can happen to White here. They're going to get essentially a free shot. And then we're either going to enforce the penalty or wipe it off because it's a technical foul if a goal scored. Illegal screen. In order to set a screen, you got to be motionless. You got to keep your body across within the body, so you can't have the long pole like 6 feet out. And your legs must be shoulder width. You can't do the Vlade Divac and do like the wide stance and try to really get guys, right? So clearly, Blue here is setting a pick. He is not motionless. He is clearly moving. This is clearly an illegal pick, right? In order to call an illegal pick, you have to have contact. If the defender runs around the guy who's moving and there's no contact, there's no foul. All right, so here we go. The black player is going to lean into the defender. You see him, he's leaning forwards, and it is clearly a foul, right? Now, if he had just stayed perpendicular, he would have been fine. I'll show that to you again. Yep, that is moving. Here's another example. Look at the red guy setting the pick. He is at no point moving, and we give the signal and we award the ball to the other team. All right, withholding. Withholding is lying on the ball, trapping the ball with the cross longer that's necessary to control, withholding the ball from play. If you look on the image on your right, you will see that the individual is thumbing the ball. He's got his thumb pressed into the ball so that it doesn't come out. The other thing you'll see players do is they will press the head of the cross against their chest. It's called chesting the ball. And then they will run through like 11 guys, and you're like, how did he hold on to the ball? Well, he's got it pressed against his chest. That's withholding. You were only allowed one step on a face-off with the ball in your back of the cross. This is an immediate whistle. You don't get a shake. You don't get 2 shakes. You don't get any other thing. If it's withheld, it is withheld. Now, the other example is if you lose the ball and you lose your cross and it lands on the ground covering the ball, it is an immediate whistle and you give the ball to the other team, right? You don't want people kicking somebody else's stick or flipping it up in the air. Like, it just gets crazy. People get mad. It's a bad scene. So if the ball lands on the ground in somebody's cross, we blow the whistle and we award it to the other team. All right, illegal procedure, what I like to call the kitchen sink. Playing without a cross, flicking across an opponent's face, entering the game before penalty time has expired, participating from out of bounds, leaving the restraining area before a face-off is ended, throwing the cross, not at a player, coach, or official, exchanging crosses while in possession of the ball, not having a mouthpiece, more than 4 long crosses, more than 10 men on the field, not having a working horn. This is all illegal procedure, right? So if you're ever in doubt as to what to call during a technical foul or what the signal is, you're going to give the illegal procedure signal. It's the easiest one to do. If you don't have a cross, you are not a legally equipped player. You cannot participate in the play. So if the cross gets knocked out of your hands or you break your cross, even if you're not moving, you can still set a screen. You can't push somebody or hold somebody or body check anybody, right? Now, you can pick your broken cross up and run off the field. That's fine. I would rather have 2 shards of metal being carried off the field by somebody not participating in the play. But if you make contact with really any other opponent or you set a screen, you are participating in the play. Let's take a look at this guy. So he's got a broken cross and he goes to play. He's not allowed to do that. This is clearly participating without a cross. We're going to throw a flag here because green is in possession of the ball. Here are some examples. Right now here, purple loses the ball, loses the cross, but he never participates in the play once he loses his cross. He gets out of the way and he just goes and picks up his cross, right? So the left-hand example, I got nothing, right? That's nothing illegal there. Here, again, this is what we call a yard sale, where you take the ball away and the stick and everything goes flying. These are 2 examples of playing without the cross where it's not illegal, right? He doesn't set a screen. He doesn't body check anybody. He doesn't push. He doesn't hold. He just goes and picks up his cross. All right. Playing with a broken cross, right? You can't participate with a broken cross. A broken cross is not a cross. So let's look at this example. This was a game I was on, and I was sort of flabbergasted to see this all happen. So look at his cross. Like, it's like he's playing with nunchucks. Right? So we have multiple flags down. They're all technical fouls, playing with a broken cross. A goal is scored. So the goal is good. You're going to wipe out the flags. All right. Loss of player equipment. Right. If player loses equipment through play, and it's not an intentional act, and they're in the scrimmage area, right? You're going to stop play immediately. So think about what mandatory equipment is. You lose you lose a helmet, you use a glove, you lose a shoe, you lose anything but a cross. And we're going to stop play if you're in the scrimmage area. If the goalkeeper loses mandatory equipment, unless there is a shot in flight, you're going to kill the play immediately. Okay. If an offensive player loses mandatory equipment, not a cross in the scrimmage area, they can continue playing until B attempts to play them, and you're going to kill the play. And we're just going to give the ball back to the offensive player, put his shoe back on, pick his glove up, right? If you have the ball, you keep the ball. If team A is in possession, they retain possession. Otherwise, you're going to use alternate possession. So if the ball was loose, here's an example of when we use AP, right? If it's in the crease and you kill the play, you always award it to the defense, okay? A defender who loses mandatory equipment must stop participating. They cannot keep participating. We will instantly throw a flag if they participate. Oh, let me go back. Let me show you this example. This is a great example. So this is Notre Dame Duke. This is from a couple of years ago. This is a tie game with 6 seconds left, and one of the best players on the planet with the ball. All right, so we blow the ball in. You go running by, shoot, score. However, the official comes in, and this player has lost mandatory equipment. A shoe comes off in the scrimmage area. That is an immediate whistle. The goal is no good. You restart play again. He doesn't score, and we go to overtime.
Oh, wow.
But like, this is a no joke foul. You can't be like, well, I didn't see that, right? This is our job. If an offensive player loses mandatory equipment, you kill the play. It's not a foul, but you kill the play. Playing from out of bounds, right? You can't play from out of bounds. So let's look at this example. Clearly here we've got White is out of bounds, and he is going to try to scoop this ball up. You can't do that. Right? You are not allowed to exchange crosses. Now, I've never seen this happen in my entire life with the ball in them. I had to invent an image to show you guys what that would look like, but that's in the rule book. Right? Illegal use of hands. You are not allowed to touch the ball as a field player. And we do illegal touching. That's our signal. But if you're the goalie, you are allowed to bat the ball while you are in the crease. So the goalie here with his free hand out, he's allowed to bat that ball, okay? He can't catch the ball, and he can't do it when he's outside of the crease. But if he's in the crease, he is allowed to bat the ball. Here's an example of illegal touching. Did you see? Watch the White defender. He is going to like pop the ball with his hand. You'll see it on the replay. So you get the rebound. Pops down. He tips it to his goalie. That is illegal touching. Note that the official gives the illegal procedure signal because he probably doesn't remember. This doesn't happen very often. So he doesn't go illegal touching. He goes illegal procedure. 100% correct. He gets the call right. That's the most important thing. All right. Delay of game. We talked about restarts, right? This is mostly going to come into play when we talk about restarts, right? Failure to be ready for play within 20 seconds. One of the reasons we use our 20-second timer is after a timeout, right? With 20 seconds to go before we're supposed to restart, we say timer on, and everybody's got to be ready to play. Failure to ready the ball for play on stoppage, right? Avoidable lateness of team. But most of all, go ahead. Somebody have a question? All right. Most of all, you will see this failure to yield 5 yards on a restart, right? You are not allowed. You can be within 5 yards on a restart if you're a defender, not if you're an offensive player. But if you don't give up 5 yards before you play them, it's a flag down. So here's a classic example of that. This is what we mean by not making the ball ready for play. So we get a push. And what does the player do? He flings the ball 30 yards away. That is, you got to drop the ball right at the spot where the foul happened. Otherwise, it's a technical foul. And when you have that push, you're saying, hey, white gets the ball. It's a loose ball foul. Once that delay of game happens, white's now in possession of the ball. So now it's a flag. Does that make sense? Conduct. This is what we call the half bird. It's not the full unsportsmanlike conduct. It's just the half bird. This is a great way to sort of ramp up if you're trying to stop behavior that you don't like, right? If it's a loose ball and players are mouthing at you or mouthing at each other or starting to taunt each other, you can go conduct and you're just going to award the ball to the other team. If a team's in possession of the ball and you see that happening, you can either take the ball away or you can put somebody in the box for 30 seconds with a conduct foul, right? This video made the rounds a couple of years ago. This is clearly a conduct foul. This makes for great highlights and everybody loves it on YouTube and TikTok, but this is a fight waiting to happen. And you want to stop that immediately. So great roll dodge. Breaks his ankles, and then he gives him the wave. I am immediately banging this kid with a conduct foul, taking the ball away, and we're going the other direction, right? That's not something that I'm going to let happen. All right, guys. I apologize for being late. We were like a little 15 minutes there. But I will send out this recording to you guys as soon as I am able tomorrow morning or afternoon. And I will make sure that you have access to the rule book so you can catch up on some of the homework stuff. Thank you all for your patience and your kindness and for jumping on here. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday at Pope High School. Dress warmly. But dress comfortably, right? You don't need to be in uniform. We're going to be doing some presentations early on, and then we're going to be walking through some situations outside. So you get a sense of kind of what you're looking at and where you're standing, what a face-off looks like, all that kind of stuff. And you'll be working with a couple of really great trainers, Don Stoppenbach, Stuart Smith, one of our assigners, as well as Chris Ferram, our liaison out in Savannah. Right.
Greg, real quick.
Yeah.
At the high school, are we meeting in the field house or the gym?
So if you go online, you will see, if you go to schedule, if you go to GALaxref.com, you can go to the schedule and you will see a diagram of the school. You're going to go to the main entrance at Pope High School. You'll see the flagpole. We'll have the door open and a sign up there. And you're going to come in, there'll be a registration table. We'll have coffee and donuts and some snacks. And we will go from 9 to 1. So there will be no lunch served. But you guys will meet a lot of the officials. I think we've got 150 or so people that are showing up for this event. So you'll meet a lot of guys. You'll meet some of the other board members, and you'll get a real sense of kind of what the field looks like and what we're doing. All right.
Perfect.
All right, y'all. If you have any questions, definitely text me, shoot me an email, give me a call. I will see you on Saturday.
All right. Thank you, Greg.